Just before I turned 18, I moved out of my parents' house to live with my boyfriend at the time. We rented an apartment that was the upper floor of an older house. I don't remember anything else odd happening, just that closet in the bedroom. I swear, it only existed to terrify me. I've always had a thing about closets. The doors have to be closed. I just hate it when people leave them open. I'm the same way with kitchen cabinets and drawers. If I go to a friend's house, I'll close open cabinets. My closet was original to the house. His was the one that was added later. Mine was big enough to step into, with shelves on the left side. At the top was a little door, the kind you push up and over for access to the attic. I also hate those kinds of attic doors. For some reason, the ceiling in my closet was higher than the rest throughout the apartment. You would have to have a good-sized ladder to reach the attic door, in fact. I don't know how long we lived there when this first started, but at night, and only during the night, and only when I was in bed, the closet door would open, very slowly and somewhat creaky. The head of the bed was directly across the room, so if I was on my left side, I was looking right at that closet. I remember the first time it happened. I was home by myself. I'm in bed, facing the door, trying to fall asleep. I hear the door creak open, and it opens painfully slow. I'm thinking the whole time, what if someone had broken into the house and had been hiding in there, waiting for me to fall asleep? It opens far enough for someone to come out, but not far enough for me to see directly into the closet. The door is blocking my view from seeing in from where I was in the bed, and I'm laying there in abject terror, waiting for someone to peek their head out. But nothing happens. I jump up, flip on the light, and there's nothing there. I figured that I must not have made sure it was completely closed and latched. I go over, close the door, and make sure it's shut and that it catches in the latch this time, then pull on the knob to make sure it's definitely closed. I turn off the light and get back into bed, and I'm all settled in, and my heartbeat is back to almost normal. I'm all comfy and cozy when I hear the click of the closet door, and the damn thing starts opening again. Now, I'm totally freaked out. I know it was closed properly. This time, I didn't get up. It was probably an hour before I fell asleep too, just staring at the door the whole time. This only seemed to happen when my boyfriend wasn't home too, and after a few times of it opening, I decided I would put something in front of the door at night. I found a box of books we hadn't unpacked and placed it in front of the closet door, under the doorknob, and made sure the door was latched. Thinking I was going to get a good night's rest, I get into bed. About 10 minutes later, I hear the click of the door, and for a few seconds, nothing happens. Then, I hear the door creak as it pushes the heavy box across the carpet, opening just wide enough for someone to step out, like it had been doing before. Up to that point, I had figured it must have been a doorknob latch or something, or maybe there was some kind of breeze from the attic or whatever, or possibly even uneven floors. But when it pushed that box of books out of the way, none of the things explained that door opening on its own like that. Paranormal? Maybe, maybe not. One thing is for sure though, it was fucking super creepy. Luckily, I didn't live there for much longer. For a little background info, I'm a junior in college, originally from the US, studying abroad in Hong Kong. Though battling a minor language barrier, I immediately fell in love with the vibrant city. It didn't take long to feel at home and get familiar with my surroundings, and after a matter of weeks, I was practically a local. I'm reluctant to say that in exchange for feeling so comfortable in the area, I may have let my guard down in the process. Being a 5'6", 120-pound female, I recognize the importance of staying vigilant, especially when venturing out on my own. Though pretty athletic, I'm not much of a threat against anyone that may want to hurt me, which leads me to the encounter I had some weeks ago. I decided to head over to a smaller mall to kill some time one afternoon while my friends were in class. When I say small, I mean in comparison to some of the massive retail metropolitans located elsewhere in the city. But this place was still no joke. I had begun to frequent this mall, as it was not a far trip, and an easy place to visit with a couple of hours to spare, so I knew the place pretty well. Also, Hong Kong is fairly diverse, compared to most places in Asia, but being blonde and white, I get a lot of stares. I am usually one of few, if any, white people around whenever I leave campus, especially in the areas with small numbers of tourists. This makes other people of the same race stand out to me in a crowd as well, which is why that afternoon I had noticed 2 white men showing up in the same place as I was. Now, before you roll your eyes, this mall is good-sized, but small enough where that wasn't particularly unusual. A lot of the major stores are in the same area, so I figured that they were shopping around like I was. I didn't get that eerie, I'm being watched feeling, and I wasn't even sure that they had noticed my presence whatsoever. I hadn't caught them looking at me, even once. Besides, I have a pretty good sixth sense about these kinds of situations anyway. After growing up in some major cities, my parents made damn sure stranger danger was ingrained into my brain as a child, and that I knew exactly what to do if I found myself in trouble. I was aware of the men, but I wasn't worried. An hour or so after I had last noticed the 2 men, I was milling around, a Starbucks and a few shopping bags in hand, mostly people watching at this point, and debating whether or not it was time to go back to campus. To avoid the crowd and getting bumped into, a lack of awareness for personal space seems to be a common thing here. I went slightly out of the way to walk through a quieter walkway that passed by a couple of luxury stores and an exit. And let me emphasize, there were still plenty of people around. They just happened to be further to my right, while the luxury stores and exits were to my left. I'm still wondering, lost in my thoughts, when someone coming from my right bumps into me. Seriously, with all this empty space around? But this time, there were fingernails digging into my ribcage. They hadn't just bumped into me, they latched on. Whoever it was behind me, and walking perpendicular to my previous path. Their right hand was positioned under my right arm, pushing and pulling me with them. To any passerby, he was positioned strategically enough that you probably couldn't even tell what was going on. This guy knew exactly what he was doing. It took me a minute to register what the hell was happening, especially since I couldn't see the assailant from their position behind me. Once I snapped out of it, I was stunned. I stumbled along with him for a moment, trying to shake loose, but this guy was strong. A victim to his still tight grip, all 120 pounds of me was not going anywhere besides exactly where he wanted me. A fear seized my mind and body as his massive grip tightened and those long fingernails delved deeper into my skin. Then, a confident, gravely voice that was enough to make anyone's skin crawl barked into my ear.
Do not fight. I will win.
At this point, I am panicking, obviously. I manage to look behind me, and who do I see but one of those 6'5" white muscle men from before. A big surprise, I know. He snarls at me and slams his fist or hand in the same position under my left arm. I look towards where we're headed and see the other, equally as monstrous white man posted up waiting for us, right under the illuminated sign that read exit. I heard a family friend's, who used to live in Hong Kong's, voice in my head. Listen, you will see sex trafficking while you're there. It's everywhere, but as long as you're careful, you'll be fine. A warning he had heeded before I left. Suddenly, that panic that had created a fog around my brain turned to pure adrenaline. I was no longer scared. I was pissed. Not thinking, rather operating on autopilot, I garnered a strength that I didn't know I had, and ripped free from the veteran kidnapper's grip. I would like to say that I ran like hell to get help, but again, this was my hyped-up adrenaline-ridden brain acting. I whipped around, mere feet away from my attacker, and glared at this man as if saying, "Try that shit again, I dare you." If looks could kill, he looked absolutely stunned that I had managed to pull free. But at this point, the interaction was no longer disguised as a normal encounter. More people were around, and without the opportunity to make it appear as if I was acting of my own accord, he knew that he had missed his chance. He glared back momentarily, but motioned to his buddy, and they booked it out the exit without their intended target. And just as fast as it had come, the adrenaline rush was gone. I was shaking uncontrollably, fighting back tears, his touch burning into my flesh long after he had gone. I looked around me, stunned that no one had stopped to help or even witness what had just happened. I took a moment to compose myself physically. My mental state was another story, and slowly and vigilantly walked my shaking self back to the bus that would return me to safe haven on campus. While I can't say for certain what their intentions were, I have a pretty good guess. I can only pray that the next girl is as lucky as I was.